Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now in a bit over an hour from now, we are going to get a chance to get a 1 free box key for one of these 6 champions that we have an equal chance of obtaining. And if you're going to be partaking in the Valentine's Day sales, you will have an opportunity to get all of these champions should you choose to do so. All that said, obviously, people have been asking which one is the best, which one you want the most, which one you think is the most important, so on and so forth. So in this video, I'm going to be kind of ranking them and at the same time breaking them down in terms of desirability and giving my thoughts and opinions about these 6 champions that Kabam's going to make available. 3 of them are made available for the first time ever. That would be the Karnak, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, and Star-Lord. And that obviously has, increasing people's desirability for them, not necessarily usefulness of those champions. But there is a clear, obvious best champion here. If you do not have her already, Captain Britain is by far and away leagues ahead of the rest of the champions. Realistically speaking, Captain Britain is not only one of the gnarliest defenders in the game, she's also extremely capable attacker, also happens to be tremendously excellent for stuff like Coliseum fights, which is giving her even more life right now. Therefore, Captain Britain is by far and away the best champion in this pool of 6 by a wide margin, because she is also the only quote-unquote meta champion, I would say. Yeah, just about. And yeah, she's kind of good for everything, even for casual players. She's very good in attack now, especially if you know you're using her. Again, good for grinding out Coliseum fights, good for Alliance War, Battlegrounds. She's not like the best casual quester, I would say, because, realistically you want to build to level 3 for her to start doing her things, but still, extremely capable, very rare, not in the base pool. I think she's not in the base pool. So there you go. Betsy is the best champion there. Second best champion there is probably Mr. Fantastic, realistically. Like, as I said before, none of the other champions really have made it to the meta, and I doubt that they will. I think Mr. Fantastic kind of has the best chance. Mr. Fantastic now, as he's becoming more available, because for a while we did see him in Battlegrounds here and there. He obviously has been Alliance War staple, and he's actually like a very consistent, very reliable Alliance War option as well, when it comes to reversing regeneration and mitigating power gain, because you do have these pre-fights that you start with guaranteed. There's no RNG involved. You can have like very controlled type of fight. So he has always been extremely kind of like safe and capable Alliance War champion, both offensively and defensively. And again, he does kind of fit the longer mid to fight narrative, because he is he is a ramp up champion. Keep in mind that in order to get best out of him, you absolutely will again want him to be awakened and high sig. It's not necessarily as big of a requirement for Captain Britain, but for him you do want to get him to high sig in order for him to get that high combat power rate for you to be able to spam those level 2s and level 3s. So that is quite important. Other than that, he isn't overly particularly relevant right now, but if we were to look at what this champion can do in the game right now, he's probably ahead of the others. That said, I do think that Phoenix at this point could already kind of be considered underrated. Phoenix is actually very capable damage dealing champion, especially for mid to longer fights as well. There are some interesting YouTube videos out there that I have made myself as well, because there are several rotations for Phoenix, and she can put up very good numbers even in like Abyss length type of fights. She would also be quite capable for like Coliseum length fights whenever we would be called to use her. My personal beef with this champion is the fact that she kind of lags my phone, which again is mainly beef with Kabam. And obviously she has kind of 0 defensive value, unlike her counterpart. And the fact that she entirely relies on the Incinerate is kind of like one of the biggest inherent weaknesses for her. She's a competent counter to Zola, however. She's a competent counter to a fair chunk of champions, but again, you do need to keep in mind the weakness of the Incinerate, for instance, so you're not going to do well against a whole subset of champions. But overall, I do think she's usable. I think she's playable. I think she's quite good. But again, she'll likely need like a very specific set of circumstances to shine, and it is more than likely not going to be in somewhere in like Battlegrounds. Could be in Alliance War, could be Coliseum type things, or some other content in the game. But again, realistically, everything aside from Captain Britain is what you'd consider fairly mid for the game standards, or slightly above mid. Star-Lord, again, like, I am actually putting him above Clairvoyant because he has the massive downside. By the way, Phoenix does not necessarily need to be awakened. She works fine unawakened for most part. Star-Lord, on the other hand, does need to be awakened, does need to be basically max sig, which will kind of rule him out for 90% of the players, because not only you need to get him, you need to have him awakened, you need to have him max sig, and sig stones are still in very high demand, and there are a plethora of champions one would be better off investing. So if you're going to be doing that, let's call it what it is, it's going to be like, you know, a passion. It's going to be I want, not it's a good choice type of situation. Obviously, we have seen some Star-Lord gameplay. He will do a ton of damage, but again, there's no quick way to ramp him up. He doesn't carry over his charges. Ironically, his level 2 and element gun is miles superior than the new Star-Lord's is, because there's actually heal, block, power drain, shock, and there's something else as well, which are all effects superior to the stuff that the new Star-Lord's element gun does. So I kind of find it funny that the old element gun is just flat out superior version to the new one. But I'll leave it there. Ultimately, it's kind of like not infinite, but, you know, massive damage dealing machine. But again, it's nothing to kind of like lose your mind about. Black Widow Clairvoyant. Now, we wanted her a ton, but I think a lot of people forget that even back in the day, Black Widow Clairvoyant's damage output was always considered to be mid, unless you're running recall masteries. Reality is, vast majority of the time, hardly anybody gets to run recall masteries with today's game, in between war, in between everything else, because Kabam has chosen to make the game that way. That would not necessarily need to be the case, but Kabam's refusing us to give like mastery presets for any other game mode outside of Battlegrounds. And mastery system is very bad, and it will absolutely not be worth switching your masteries on and off to give her a decent amount of damage, because she's never going to be a crazy amount of damage dealing champion. So from the gameplay that I have seen her being tested, she's definitely on the underwhelming side. And her claim to fame was the buff immunity, basically. But we even have that in a superior form now in the game. So whilst I do think there will obviously be places where if you want, you will be able to use Claire for some challenge modes and some story content, stuff like that, I really don't think it's a good or wise choice to kind of like invest in her. I think she's too slow for Battlegrounds. I think she can be okay for War. I think she's too slow and weak for Coliseum type things. I think she's absolutely too slow for like all high helpful piece of content like Necropolis. So I like her as a champion, and with Recall Mastery, she's completely different and she's much more alive. Without them, she realistically just seems underwhelming. Whilst I absolutely do want to get my hands on her, I would not kind of like rush to max her out or rank her up or invest heavily unless there's a very specific need for it. Then again, the same goes for Star-Lord too, because I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze already at these points. And the last champion, I think Karnak. Karnak, again, is one of those champions that failed to make a mark when 6-star was the benchmark and he was available at the highest rarity. And there is zero reason why he should have meaningful amount of impact in the game now that we have X amount of more champions with more specific defensive requirements, and, you know, we have 7 stars in the game. Realistically, Karnak was always kind of good when he was running the recall masteries, and he was mid without them persistently everywhere and for anything except for like invade type stuff. With invade meta, similar to like Yondu, perhaps to a lesser degree, he is a good champion, but that's like one of the very, very few situations where I can kind of imagine or picture him actually being a pick. So I do think Karnak is kind of like the worst pick. Unfortunately. So basically the 3 new champions are also kind of like the worst ones. I do think you can mix match the order of them 3. I think it's like fairly subjective, but realistically I don't expect any of them to make a meaningful impact on the game in any competitive scenario. I do expect every one of them to be able to be showcased in some interesting place or time. You know, somebody is going to get a Karnak, take him to rank 4, put on recall masteries, and is going to make a cool video. Sure, yes, that's going to happen. Do I think you should do that? Absolutely not. Do I think the same about Star-Lord? Yes. Do I think about Black Widow Clairvoyant? Also more than likely. I don't think, you know, when you put Black Widow Clairvoyant together next to Kushala, next to Chatra next to Nico, and so on. I don't think she's going to hold up well. I might be wrong, but again, from the damage they played, the damage output is abysmal. Unless you sacrifice all the utility and go for Incinerate phase, in which case it's kind of okay-ish. And if you activate, like, Recall Masteries, the damage is decent enough, I suppose. But again, any nodes with damage multipliers, obviously she's going to be quite good, but then again, there's a ton of champions who will also do the same thing. And yeah, that's what I think. That's where I'm at. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all been